Hi and welcome to The Light Leaders, a podcast for light workers who want more money, power and impact. I'm your host, Alex E. Lember. I believe that we are currently in the middle of a global awakening of humanity and that leveraging entrepreneurship is the fastest way to raise the consciousness of our planet. So in this podcast, I interview light workers and conscious entrepreneurs who follow their soul mission and have built a business around it. I call them light leaders, and this is the new paradigm. You will hear their stories and, more importantly, receive tools, tips, and strategies on how you can also impact more people and grow your business while following your soul mission. If you hear little nuggets you love and you'd like to share, screenshot this episode and share on your Instagram stories. Make sure to tag us at the Light Leaders Podcast and we will repost. There's a device I love and use almost every day. It's called the Healy. It sends specific frequencies to the body. It's been developed by quantum physicists from Germany, and it is the next evolution of health and well-being. It has amazing results. On top of it, it's an entrepreneurial opportunity. This is how I monetize my lifestyle, my brand, and this podcast. So if you're interested in getting this amazing device for yourself, or also in the entrepreneurial opportunity, I would love to help you. You can go to www.thelightleaders.org/Healy, Healy. Hi and welcome to The Light Leaders. Today I'm with Ananda Sarita. She is a world-renowned Tantra master and mystic offering courses, retreats and trainings throughout the world. She lived in Osho's physical presence for 17 years and in his community for 26 years. She received direct transmissions from him on meditation and Tantra. Sarita is true to the spiritual essence of Tantra and guides her students on the path of self-realization. At the same time, she helps people to transcend the psychological issues which are carried as a result of cultural conditioning and past experiences. She is also a master healer, author and producer-director of Tantra online courses and Tantra meditation CDs. Sarita has developed and been teaching many trainings around the world. Each year, you also host the Tantra Essence Festival, an occasion to enjoy Tantra, live music, dance, and yoga. I'm super honored to have you, Sarita. Welcome to The Light Leaders.
Thank you.
And Sarita, I'd love to ask you, what are you grateful for today?
I'm very grateful to be sitting here right now, touching the hearts, minds, souls of perhaps thousands of people, so we can share the joy of Tantra together. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much for being here. And I'd like to share at the beginning, quite quickly, your why, your vision for the world, and also how you bring this into manifestation with your activities and your business to give context to the watcher or listener.
I'm very passionate about Tantra, and I'll just summarize a little bit what Tantra is to me. It is the harmonious union of sexuality, love, and spirituality. It's also the weaving together of opposite polarities. And when these opposite polarities merge, we will experience an alchemical transformation, opening into the divine. So this is my passion. I love to offer Tantra as a path of enlightenment, a path based in meditation and love, honoring equally the feminine and the masculine. And I know that in today's world, this vision and this transformation is very much needed now more than ever. So I'm really excited to have any opportunity to spread the message and also to spread methods of transformation. What has transformed me, I like to share with others. So whatever I'm sharing is based on my own lived experience.
Thank you so much. And I love people to be able to know a bit about your journey also personally, and how you went into Tantra and then becoming a master, sharing that beautiful practice with the world. So do you want to share a little bit about your story?
So I can share basically how I came to meet Osho. I was very passionate as a child to find the essence of life, and I left my hometown when I was 15 years old. I hitchhiked all through North America, both USA and Canada. And then I took one flight to London, and then I hitchhiked all through Europe and overland to India. In India, I came across Vipassana meditation with the teacher Goenka. I studied with him, and while I was in Mumbai getting ready to do a 1-month intensive silent retreat with him, I met Osho. And that completely transformed my life, that meeting. And subsequently, after my 1-month retreat, I went to Osho's meditation camp in Mount Abu in India. And that's where I was initiated into Osho's neo-sannyas. Subsequently, I stayed close to him, like in his physical presence, for 17 years till he left his body. After he left his body in 1990, I started teaching. I was teaching holistic healing, meditation, and then whatever I had learned from him through Tantra, I realized that this is actually what people need, because people were coming to heal their issues around love and relating, and that was, of course, affecting their body, their sense of well-being. So as I researched deeper and deeper into what people actually need, I realized, wow, it's what Osho's been transmitting to me all these years. So this is what I need to share. Then I started really pouring myself into sharing Tantra.
Thank you. I'm actually very excited to have you here, because it's a bridge between things that I've read or done, but that feels more far away. So when you talk about Goenka, I have, and I'm sure many of the listeners have done a Vipassana meditation where you see Goenka on screen.
Yes.
But it's very interesting that you were with him at the time. And same with Osho. I've been reading Osho almost every night for more than a year.
Wow.
And it's beautiful to hear your journey there with these amazing people. And you talked about those teachings being needed now more than ever. Can you expand on that?
You know, what I see happening in the world is that people are becoming increasingly divided. I think there is a yearning in all human beings to find oneness, to come together, to learn to celebrate life, and to rediscover what it is to love and to be in harmony. However, the way our society is set up is actually bringing people further apart, more and more distance between persons. And so this goes contrary to the natural human yearning to have community, to celebrate together, to love, and to find nurturing with each other. We are very social beings, after all. And so in Tantra, we are honoring that basic human need. And we're actually going into a process of remembering what it is to be in harmony, body, mind, soul. So it's not something that we are putting on top of who we are. We're unveiling and releasing what is not ours and coming back to what is actually our truth as human beings. So this is the process. It's a process of remembering.
And regarding Tantra, especially, do you want to share a little bit about your definition of it, also in regards to people thinking it's only about sexuality?
Yes, this is very important because there is a misconception about Tantra. People in the Western world tend to think that it's all about sexual licentiousness, orgies, maybe polyamory. So this is a kind of common idea that people carry. And yet, if you start looking into ancient Tantra scriptures, you will find that it's actually about the whole human being. So whether you go into Tantra through the door of the senses, emotions, Kundalini energy, chakra system, expanded states of consciousness, all of that is relevant to the path of Tantra. And there's a very beautiful scripture that I love so much called the Vigyan Bhairav Tantra. And actually, I teach that during a retreat that I offer by the same name, Vigyan Bhairav Tantra. This scripture has 112 meditations devoted to spiritual awakening. And these 112 methods cover everything that the human being is. Now, this is a very unusual scripture because it is a love dialogue between Shiva and his consort Parvati. Parvati is sitting in the lap of Shiva. She's asking questions about life, love, spirituality. Shiva is giving answers. His answers are methods of meditation, but they are given in sutra form. So he will give an answer which is a sutra indicating a particular method. In other words, Tantra is not about theory, it's about practice. You go into the method, you practice it, and your own innate wisdom will start bubbling up from within based on your lived experience. And this is something that needs to be understood about Tantra, that it is about methods of meditation. Now, how did Tantra get the reputation of being all about sex? This is a very good question. And I believe it stems from the Victorian age, because England was occupying India. And during the Victorian age, some Tantra scriptures were getting translated into English by English scholars. And the thing about the Victorian age, they were very uptight about sex. They used to cover tables and put a cloth that would cover even the legs of the table, because even the legs of the table were thought to be too sexual. So you can imagine how uptight they were. Then they would see some kind of Tantra practices which may include nudity, maybe would include some kind of honoring of the lingam or the yoni, some kind of sexual practices, among many other kinds of practices. And they got very shocked and they dubbed it the cult of sex. Of course, misunderstanding completely the context of Tantra. Now, if you look at the Vigyan Bhairav Tantra, there are 112 methods, and only 6 of those could be said to have something to do with sex. The other ones are covering all other aspects of the human life experience. So I always like to bring Tantra back to its original context. And I think that's very important, that it's honoring the whole human being in all that we are.
Super interesting and funny also from the Victorian age. But even today, I feel, for example, I love reading Osho. I haven't watched really Wild Country or documentaries because I'm always a little bit skeptical of the image it can give. But I think Osho was, as some people told me, it was called the sex guru.
Yes.
Is that also a deformation of
So Osho
society?
was called the sex guru because he was teaching people to reclaim our natural way of being, which includes our sexuality. And people were very shocked because there's a kind of predisposition in people to believe that spirituality has to be cut off from our sexuality. This is the kind of idea that people carry about spirituality. So he was bringing back the roots to people. And I'd like to explore a little saying that comes from Tantra: no mud, no lotus. What is that indicating? If you think about the lotus, it is floating on the surface of the lake so beautifully. But the lotus would not be there if it didn't have its roots in the mud at the bottom of the lake. Traditionally, the lotus flower symbolizes the awakening of enlightenment within us, the Sahasrara, the crown chakra. So Tantra is indicating that if we don't honor the roots, meaning our sexual energy, we cannot hope for the lotus to blossom at the Sahasrara chakra. We need those roots that are deep in the mud. We need to explore our sexuality with love and with consciousness. And then automatically it will start moving and evolving, blossoming into love. And as we go deeply into love, that too will move and evolve and will open into the flowering of our spirituality. So this is the reality about human evolution of consciousness. And if we cut ourselves off from our roots, from our sexuality, truly we cannot hope to blossom spiritually. That will be a fake plastic flower that will come out of it. And I say this based on my own experience.
Do you want to share on that?
Well, following Osho's teaching and really embracing sexuality as a spiritual practice, I dive so deeply into many, many different aspects of sexual exploration, always in the context of bringing awareness, making it a meditation. And Osho gave many different Tantra practices also, whether that was being done alone or with my partner. And this was an incredible journey of discovery. And I was not expecting the result that happened out of that. That, as I said, sexuality blossoming into profound love. Not only love of self or love of another, but love of the whole. And then following deeper and deeper into that love, how the cosmic orgasm mirrors the sexual orgasm. And that the deeper we've gone into our sexual orgasm and we know it completely, we will then be able to open that same energy into the cosmic orgasm and have that experience. And both are two ends of the same spectrum, two poles of the same energy. So it's like you plant a seed. If you want to see a magnificent oak tree growing, first you have to plant the seed. So first we have to plant the seeds of conscious sexuality. Then we will have an amazing flowering and the grandeur of the mighty oak.
And do you feel that in some spiritual circles we bypass those lower chakras and that gives, as you called it, the plastic flower?
Yes.
Fake.
So what I think happened is that people are very afraid of emotions. And this is another thing about Osho, which is quite remarkable. He brought awareness into sexuality. He also brought awareness into emotions. And he brought forward the possibility for people to explore emotional fluidity with awareness. And this is a difference that makes all the difference, because of course, if you just go dumping your emotions all over the place without consciousness, that will be ugly, it will be harmful, destructive. But if you bring awareness to it and you enter into it as a practice of meditation, you will be highly benefited, highly transformed. So I think a lot of spiritual teachers are afraid of the phenomena of sexuality and of emotions, and so bypass that. And I've found out that actually to go into these elements is very simple. And the difference that makes all the difference is entering into it as a consciousness practice. For example, if you have anger, this can become a door into profound states of meditation. You just bring awareness to your anger. And Osho developed an amazing method, which is called pillow beating meditation, where you just kneel in front of a cushion, you beat on the cushion, and you just shout no very loudly. So you release the anger of a lifetime on that cushion. You're not releasing it on somebody else. It's very harmless. And after release, you sit in front of the cushion like a Buddha, and you just become a witness of your body, mind, and emotions. Just 5 minutes. And then you bow down to the cushion. If you do that every day for 10 days, you will see a huge transformation, because the energy of anger is actually sitting on top of our spontaneity. And if we can release our anger very consciously, we will open up tremendous spontaneity, tremendous energy, which will impact not only our relationships and our sexuality, but also our creativity, how we express ourselves, how we show up for others, for ourselves, and even in our work. So everything across the board will transform just by going consciously into our anger. And this is just one example. The same can be applied to any kind of emotional state. And Osho would develop meditations which go deeply into emotions consciously. And through that, a person will come out so alive, so radiant, so juicy, passionate, and very creative.
Challenge accepted. I'll try that daily practice and
It's
tell you how I
amazing.
feel.
Just 10 days.
Okay.
It's very powerful.
Yeah, I already beat pillows sometimes when I feel angry, but
Yeah.
doing it daily might be a good idea.
Yeah.
You talked about how it's also useful for creativity, for work also, and our audience here, many of them are connected and spiritual, but also want to manifest beautiful things in the world, often with the tools such as a business.
Yes.
And I actually find that there are similarities there in the way that sometimes spiritual people would treat also business as something not as worthy as maybe they do with sexuality. And it's also an area that can bring some of that shadow. And so in general, I really like to link, to find those similarities between the embodiment of Tantra and the embodiment of entrepreneurship. As you know, so many practices, I'd be very curious to know if you would recommend specifically some practice for an entrepreneur.
Yes. So one thing that's good to address is about following your passion. This is very important because we're all born with a particular gift, and I call that your superpower. So we all have a superpower we're born with that has to be unveiled, that has to be developed. The way to find out what your superpower is to remember how you used to like to play as a child. What were you naturally drawn to when you were a child? Were you playing with cars, trucks, airplanes, toy airplanes and all of that? Were you building things, Lego and etc.? Were you setting up shop and selling? What were you interested in? What were you passionate about? Because this reveals something about your innate talent that you were born with. Now, if you can remember what that was and you make a list of those ways that you used to like to play, and then you apply that, what kind of business could that become if you applied it in the sense of being an entrepreneur or somebody who's very creative? And then you make the list, and then you will have a kind of gut sense of what is actually clicking for you. And then you need to trust that 100%. Now, usually I've spoken to entrepreneurs who are very, very successful and asked, what is your secret? And I was told that the secret is you need to believe in what you are launching. It needs to come from deep inside. It needs to be a passion. And then you need to stick with it. And you should count on not making any profit for the first 3 years. So if you can be comfortable with that, then after 3 years, you can hope that it will start growing exponentially. And this is how you can become very successful. If you do like some people that you dig a little hole and then you say, oh, no water's coming. Okay, I try here. Okay, I try there. Finally, you have a field full of holes and none of them are bringing forth the fountain of water that you had hoped, the fountain of abundance. So find your passion, apply yourself, have faith, and nurture it till it starts growing exponentially. So this is one thing I can recommend. Another thing where some people get held back is about money itself, because there is so much energy that's locked into the idea that we carry about money. And there's a very, very beautiful method which has been given to the world by Anelia Benz, and it's called tuning into the spirit of money. So for that, you take the biggest bill that you have, whatever it is, you sit in meditation like a Buddha, you hold the money in your hand, and you witness what is arising in you when you hold the money. There might come some memories, maybe some judgments, maybe even physical feelings might come to you like disgust or hatred or fear. Something will start moving in you. And if you can remember that actually everything in existence is alive, including money. Money is all about flow. In the French language, we have a beautiful word, liquide. So that means liquid, it's flowing, it's alive. And if you can tune into the spirit of money and you just hold it in your hand and you start sensing, is it alive or is it dead for you? Is there fear? Is there anxiety? Is there hope? Is there disgust? What is it? And what are the memories that's connected with that? And you let these keep rising up like steam and releasing, going back to source. Let it all go back to source. You do one sitting about 15 minutes, and then you keep repeating this meditation. It is a meditation till you feel that you have a love fluidity with money, that there is love, there is warmth, there is flow, there is aliveness, there is creativity, passion, excitement. When you have that kind of sensitivity with your money, then the work is done. And you can repeat this meditation whenever you need. If you feel there's stagnation coming to your relation with money, you can repeat that meditation. But basically, at first, you might need several sittings, maybe up to 6 times or even more, till you establish a warm and loving relationship with money. Now, once you have that, of course, you're going to be more successful with money than if you are having this fear, stagnation, disgust, or whatever it is. And then there's another aspect which is very important, which I actually cover in my group, which is called Tantra Alchemy of Abundance, where we work with the vertical flow, the descent of grace, which people call diksha, because we have diksha coming and showering on us all the time. This is the descent of grace, divine energy. And a lot of people actually stop that from going through and being anchored in and through them out of fear because of some issues around money, abundance, feeling comfort, and whatever. So the grace is coming in and it reaches down through the chakra system, and at some point there will come a stagnation in the chakra system, like it's not flowing all the way through, and so it gets sent back like a letter being sent back from the to the sender, and it's not getting anchored through us. So then how can we live in abundance? We need to open the central channel, allow the descent of grace to come all the way through the perineum, through the sex center, down into the earth, that we become conduits for that descent of grace. And then we will be very successful. So this is like this kind of practice, it takes a little more time to introduce. And it's my joy to share it in that group, Tantra Alchemy of Abundance.
Okay, thank you, Sarita. And as always, it's very practical, which I really like. So tell me if I sum up well, but first finding your passion.
Yes.
And for this, looking into your childhood, what you really liked, and adopt the same mindset for your business. Changing your relationship to money, and you share that beautiful meditation where you feel how you feel when you hold that money with the bill.
Yes.
And then become a conduit for abundance.
The descent of grace and abundance.
Yeah. And this is a little bit more advanced, so that's why you should.
Yes, that one, then we have to do actual practices like standing up and moving energy, breath movement, sound, and opening the central channel. And this central channel, by the way, is very important in Tantra practice. Because as I said before, when we want to work with sexual energy, we want to open it into meditation if we're going to work with it consciously. So energy can either move down and out for procreation, or it can move in and up for transformation. And so traditionally, Tantra will work with a transformative path, bringing that basic life force energy in and up, piercing through any stagnation in the chakra system, and finally merging with the universal consciousness. Once you have opened that conduit, it is also open for that descent of grace. So this is the basic methodology. One way is inward and upward flow. Another way is opening that central channel for the descent of grace all the way down and through us till we become literally walking divinity, where we are channeling divine energy every moment through all of our actions. And so in Tantra practices, we work very intensively on both of these flows. And we can apply this also to sexual union. And this leads to full body orgasmic states. Now, if you want to talk about sexuality, we have to do a longer podcast because that's a whole subject. I could go on for hours, and I know people are very interested in that, but I think our subject today is a little bit different.
I think we can stick more to the abundance part, and actually some part of those sexual practices are really helpful for abundance. Well,
yes.
We've had, for example, Damaraj, who is your business partner and ex-life partner also. And we've had my friend Elena talks about, for example, practices like sex magic for manifestation. So that's definitely something we've covered.
Very good.
But I feel like for this one, if we start getting into it, it might become a 3-hour podcast.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the things I could mention about sexuality, which I think could be interesting in this context, is about, for example, if we want to learn something, we learn it much better if our sexual energy is involved in it. And this was found by people who researched and developed accelerated learning technique You might have heard of that. If you want to learn a language very quickly, you can apply this accelerated learning technique, but it's not only for languages, it's for anything in life. So they found out if you do 20-minute shots of intensive learning using the five senses, and then you follow that with relaxation using Baroque music, and you also combine that with telling naughty, risque jokes, which activate the sexual energy, the learning will go to the deepest part of the brain immediately. Otherwise, it takes 7 repetitions to learn something. So this is very interesting because I think a lot of people don't realize how sexual energy will help us to achieve anything we want in life easily and naturally, because it does activate all the 5 senses just in just the way sexual energy functions. It will do that. So this is the methodology behind. Yeah.
Do you include that in your teachings? Doing those practices that help get the knowledge?
Yes, of course, I include
Directly.
that, especially if I'm doing teacher training and people have to really learn something very deeply. And it also happens very naturally. For example, in the couples training, I offer 7 levels for couples. And in those 7 levels, couples are doing practices in the bedroom, Tantra practices. So very naturally, they are transformed in their entire life. Like everything they do gets transformed because we are bringing that sexual energy into the practices.
And I'd be really interested also about how you build Tantra essence a little bit. So how did it, I guess it came pretty naturally from the knowledge and wisdom you got from all these years with Osho and his community learning Tantra. So do you have some milestones you'd like to share or things along the way that you feel could be helpful to the listener?
I think one of the things that's very helpful is to deeply live whatever practices you are doing before you start teaching. Because some people, they just go for a weekend, they pick up a few techniques, and then they think, okay, now I'm going to be an entrepreneur, and I go and start teaching that. And that might last for a certain time, but if it doesn't have deeper roots, it cannot completely be successful. I could say it like that. Like, for example, I spent 17 years only working on myself before starting to teach. And even then, starting to teach didn't come from my mind. It was a happening. I had a very beautiful dream that I met Osho, and there was an incredible deep well which was in front of me, and Osho was there. And he said, now you have become your name. When he gave me my name, Ma Ananda Sarita, he said, if you continue with meditation, you will become this. And my name means river of bliss. Ananda is bliss, Sarita is river. So in that dream, a fountain of water started gushing out from that well. And then he said, now the river of bliss is flowing. You have become your name, and many people will come to drink from this river. And shortly after that, surprisingly, people started coming to me and saying, I want session from you. I want to learn from you. And I said, but I'm not teaching, I'm not giving session, because at that time I was working in the press relations office in Osho's community. And at least 10 people came and said the same thing. And then I said, oh, maybe I'm meant to be offering sessions or something. So that's how it started. It was coming from, like, mirroring from the outside what was actually happening or ready to happen from the inside. And so I would say when we want to start teaching, it should come very organically from within. It's like the depth of your experience starts overflowing to others. And when I teach, often people comment, how do you do it? Because you go from morning till night, you're on all the time, like, and meeting so many people, and why do you look so fresh and enthusiastic and, not tired? How do you do that? It's because I'm not doing it, it's happening. It's an overflow, and it's an overflowing that comes out of deepest gratitude to my master. I received from him infinite grace, wisdom, love, benediction, blessing. So what is happening is that I'm just overflowing gratitude. Since then, it's just overflowing. That's it. And if you can achieve to that level of overflow, your well will never run dry. You will always be in abundance of wisdom and what can come through you.
It's very beautiful and interesting also, because I've had a few coaches in this chair, and sometimes they talk about the imposter syndrome and saying, well, actually, even if you haven't completely mastered something, if you're more advanced than some people, so you can teach, and almost advising people to not be shy and to start teaching as long as they can provide value, because they feel otherwise it could lead to procrastination. So it's an interesting distinction towards what sometimes you can hear in the coaching world, which would be to get started as soon as possible almost.
So I can speak into that because I think that's a very important subject also, that basically the world needs light workers. And if you have the potential to help others, it's true that people are drawn to their own frequency or vibration, because everything in the world is happening through resonance and vibration. Just like you have two musical instruments in the same room, one is being played and the other one, the strings may start vibrating as well. It's happening through synchronicity and resonance. So we are drawn to people who will help us at our resonance level. And the reason why sometimes we're with a teacher and then after some time we've had enough and we move on is because we have expanded our frequency and we're ready for a new kind of resonance. So this is a phenomena that happens, and I agree with that. And the only thing is, we should stick to what is coming from our own lived experience. If you just start talking from knowledge, then it's like you spinning on a mental level only. Make sure that whatever it is that you are teaching comes from your own lived experience, that you have deeply embodied it. And that's where Tantra comes in, that Tantra is using methods that really invite you into your own lived experience of the method. By practicing it over a certain period of time, you're extracting the nectar that is contained in the method, and it becomes part of you. And once it becomes part of you, then you are ready to share it. So it works something like that. And in general, if you do a method only once, you will not be able to extract the nectar. You need it for a certain period of time, and then it goes deeper, deeper, and deeper within you.
I'd love to know now what's the focus for you now?
Right now, I'm focused on taking my business to a new level. Also because the situation in the world doesn't allow me to teach so many live classes. Because before I was traveling almost nonstop for like 20 years and doing groups all over the world, working with different organizers, and that was keeping me very involved in group work. But now, because of the world situation, I'm in one place in beautiful Bali, and so there's more focus on just making a nest, making a home, and shifting more to online work out of necessity. And this has its own very beautiful aspect, that I can actually touch more people. Because one thing I found out about online work is even though we are vast distances apart, actually the resonance field stretches over the whole earth. And maybe I never would have found that out if I wasn't forced to go so much online. So I found out actually this quality of touching hearts, being touched, connecting on the soul level, it's really possible and it is happening. So this shift is happening in my business. And at the same time, I have a passion that I would like to manifest, which is a community, a conscious community, where we can actually open a kind of mystery school where people can be deeply transformed on all levels, whether that is having permaculture gardens and having, very high quality food, practicing Tantra, meditation, sound healing, and community gathering, celebration, festivals, etc. So a place where people can come and find what they need to move on the path of enlightenment, whatever is needed in that moment, because sometimes we need physical healing, sometimes we need spiritual practices, sometimes we need to deepen more into intimacy, relationship. Sometimes we need to be alone and go deeper in meditation alone. Sometimes we just need to put our hands in the earth. So all of these possibilities should be available in community. And it's my dream to create at least one such community and then to see that expanding and happening in different places in the world, the same model. And I have that model in my bones and blood and marrow because I lived with Osho so many years. So I learned many valuable lessons about what makes a community work and also what makes a community fail. What are the components which can bring success or failure in terms of creating community?
And this is such an interesting discussion because I know a lot of the light workers, light leaders, we talk a lot about community, and also even in the 60s it was the case. Osho has built beautiful community. I know people who go to Auroville, for example, and maybe come back and say it wasn't as great as they thought. So there are a lot of great, beautiful projects, but then sometimes it's a little bit hard to bring into manifestation.
Yes.
Do you want to speak a little bit about this, about why there's so much willingness to build these conscious communities, but that at the end of the day, it's pretty hard for many people to find one that really resonates?
Yes. For it to really resonate, we need to cover all the aspects of what the human being is. And this is what Tantra has the capability to offer. Because the place where communities fall apart, if you think about it, is usually either around sexuality or money or both, power dynamics. So we need to have a community where these issues are addressed head on, where we can deal with these issues in a very conscious and intelligent way. And they cannot be dealt with if we just suppress this fact. We need to look the bull straight in the eye and face it and deal with it and show up for these issues that arrive, because they are very present in human beings. Issues around power, money, and sex are very present, and we need to bring awareness to those. So I know how to deal with it, how to make a community work, and that might sound very pretentious, but the fact is I've been offering healing work also for about 30 years. And so I've seen into the deepest psyche of human beings what goes wrong, what are the issues, what are the pains, the sorrows, the miseries that are bubbling inside of people, how to transform those, how to move beyond those dense issues. And so any community that is worth its name must have ways where people can find personal healing And whether that is physically, mentally, emotionally, or spiritually, this needs to be a very important component of any community.
And where would it be geographically?
Well, I think what we need is to start one somewhere in the world, and hopefully in a place where you have a kind of earth that can give abundant food, meaning that you can set up a permaculture garden and you can use these principles to create abundance of food, pure water. That's really first priority. And then from there, you can establish the community. It would be much more difficult if you do it in a desert, for example. Of course, you can green the desert, and I lived through that experience in Oregon with Osho because we created an oasis out of a desert within 5 years, and that was incredible just to be part of that experiment. Wow, that was mind-blowing. So I know it can be done. It takes a lot of hard work, but it might be easier in a place that has rich, abundant earth and water, such as Bali. Bali is a good possibility. Of course, the political climate is also very important, that we will have freedom to create such a community, because it's not every country in the world where you can have this kind of freedom.
Yeah. Definitely keep us posted on this. Bali,
Yes.
I know some people in Costa Rica like to build there.
Yes.
So that's an exciting project to follow. About actions to take right now, because for the listener, because we talked about practices. You told me earlier about meditation, about gratitude, and a third one, which was practicing the great law of magic. Can you share what that is?
So you want to know about great law of magic or gratitude or
The
what?
great law of magic.
Okay. So the great law of magic is something that Osho has spoken about in his book, My Way, The Way of the White Clouds. And if we want to track that back in time, we would have to go back all the way to Hermes Trismegistus, who was an Egyptian mystic, who is basically the wellspring that became the path of the Magi. Magicians have come from that lineage. The magicians and alchemists that developed in Europe came from that lineage. Now, the principle of the great law of magic is that you live the result and the cause follows. And the way Osho explains it is that the cause and effect are bound together. They are two poles of the same energy. You have a cause, you have an effect. Because they are two poles of one energy, you can start from one side or the other. So what magicians have found is that you can begin from the result, and then the cause is bound to follow. Now the result is actually the magical alchemy of living in an emotional state as if that result has already happened. And if you read the book, The Secret, she's hinting at that, but she doesn't actually go all the way there. In her follow-up book, which is really, really powerful, which is, I'm trying to remember, The Magic, she talks about it, that you, for example, you have something that you want. It could be anything. Maybe it's a car, maybe it's a house, whatever it is, doesn't matter. Just imagine, okay, now you have that. What will be your emotional state if you have this? So maybe you say, oh, I'll be ecstatic. So that becomes your meditation. Be ecstatic. Forget all about the cause. And because you are living in the emotional state of the result, the cause will have to follow you. It will just happen. If you are living that result in order for the cause to happen, you have missed the point. You have to let go of the cause completely and just be in the result. Now, of course, this is ego destroying, because we're so used to thinking, oh, I can't have that thing because I can't have the cause didn't happen, I'm not able to manifest this cause, therefore I can't, da da da. You know, if you are in that state, of course, you can't live in the emotional state of the result. So if you are able to live in the emotional state of the result, it means you are bypassing or annihilating the ego in order to do that. And then the channel is open for all these causes to just come and follow you. It will just happen. So this is a very powerful, magical alchemy that I'm sharing with you. Try it. It's amazing. And I can give you one example if you like. Would you like to hear it? I think
Yes.
practical examples are very good. Like there was a woman who did a group with me and my previous partner, and she said, "Oh, I'm having so much trouble attracting a man because there's always something wrong with those men. They have this problem, that problem, da da da." So my partner said to her, "But actually, how could you attract a man? Because you're a bitch. Like the way you talk about men is very nasty." So she said, I know, but how can you help me?" So we taught her the law of magic. And if you had the man of your dreams, what would be your inner state? And she said what it was. Then we said, okay, this is your meditation. You just practice that. Be that. So then about 2 months later, she called us. Now I have a new problem. I have so many men, all of them perfect. I don't know which one to choose. She had been practicing that great law of magic. And of course, all the causes started chasing her. So whether it's about manifesting a lover in your life, money, whatever it is,
A beautiful podcast,
amazing job, just practice this. And I will be very interested if you tell me what happens.
Please tell us. And we're arriving towards the end of this episode now. I'd love you to share a little bit about how can people follow you and join your courses.
Yes, so I have a website, www.tantra-essence.com, Instagram, Ma Ananda Sarita, Facebook page, Ma Ananda Sarita. So please tune in. I offer once weekly satsangs, so either pre-recorded and also sometimes live. And in the satsangs, you can send in your questions and I answer the question, and I also offer a method of meditation. So in each satsang, I usually answer about 4 questions. I've also written about 125 newsletters on a wide range of subjects, so you can look at those newsletters. You're welcome to send me questions anytime, and I offer a wide range of groups. I have about 30 different groups on the menu of my offerings, and these are happening not only with me in Bali, but also through my team in different places in the world. So there are many different ways to tune in, to connect, and to be part of this global phenomena of Tantra essence.
Thank you so much. And just before we close, I'd love to ask you if you can reveal to us the secrets of the Fountain of Youth.
Wow. Secrets of the Fountain of Youth. Well, I would say that is a combination of factors: meditation, Tantra. It helps to have a tantric partner also, which I'm lucky enough to have. And I do Ayurveda Panchakarma. I practice yoga, eat organic, vegan, healthy food, enjoy life, always learn something new, like always be open to learning. So these are my secrets, and open secrets, I would say.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to have you here again, and thank you for sharing and having such a dedicated path for your growth and sharing with the world. I hope the listeners got so much value out of it. I certainly did. Do you have a last word for the listener?
Thank you, Alex, for inviting me, and thank you everyone who is tuning to this offering. I'm really, really grateful that you are opening your heart to receive this sharing. Thank you so much. Blessings on your path.
Thank you for taking some of your precious time to listen to this podcast. If you stayed until the end, I assume it was insightful. If you like this podcast, please share with friends. Remember that if you tag us in your Instagram story at the Light Leaders Podcast, we will repost. Tell us what you've learned. You can also leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Now, if you think I can help you grow your soul mission business, you can register for a free 15-minute coaching call with me. Go to www.thelightleaders.org/free call. Thank you again, and let's co-create the conscious new earth together.